Welcome to Mind Meets Body and Soul, a podcast that connects the dots between clinical mental health and spiritual holistic wellness. I'm Heather, a licensed clinical social worker and mental health guru.
And I'm Devon, a Reiki master, spiritual teacher, and lover of all things woo-woo. We're here to discuss various wellness topics, highlighting the connection between the mind, body, and soul.
We'll be offering nuggets of wisdom from each of our fields, with the ultimate goal of bridging the gap between our two worlds. Whether you lean more into cognitive psychology
or are guided by the ancient teachings of spirituality and energetics, our intention is to help you prioritize yourself and unlock a fresh perspective to healing, growth, and expansion. We're so excited you're here. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another episode of Mind Meets Body and Soul. Devon here, joined by my lovely co-host, Heather. How's it going today?
It's good. It's chilly here in New Jersey, which is not my favorite thing. But aside from that, I'm doing well. Thank you.
We did have a bit of a trickster week last week. It was warm. It was like very spring-like. And then, today it's been oddly cold. But all of that aside, we are at the end of the month, which is one of our favorite episodes. I am joined here today with another special jungle friend of mine, which I'm so excited to introduce you to. Mary is an intuitive healer, feminine energy coach with a passion for guiding high achieving women toward breaking free from their own limitations and fully embracing their true essence. As the founder of True Vibe, a compelling spiritual lifestyle brand, Mary is wholeheartedly devoted to helping individuals unlock their true potential. I'm so excited, Heather, to introduce you to Mary. Mary, welcome to Mind Meets Body and Soul.
Hey, Devon. It's so good to see you as always. Heather, I'm so excited to be here and get to know you. We got 3 Jersey girls in the house. Represent.
We do, from like all points of Jersey too.
Yeah, it's so funny because like Jersey's so different. Like I'm like Team South Jersey all the way and you guys are all North and yeah.
The big question is 2 big questions. One, is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Pork roll for sure.
Okay, and does South Jersey exist?
Of course, South
Jersey. Oh, no,
Jersey.
not South Jersey.
No, yeah.
Central, yeah. Does Central Jersey exist?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The divide in New Jersey.
Yeah, we're Team Taylor ham up here, right, Heather?
Yes.
And coffee. You guys drink your coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us. It's so lovely to see you. It has truly only been 2 months since we have been in each other's life, but it feels like a lifetime. Heather, you know a little tidbit of, what we're bringing Mary here onto the podcast to share. But Mary and I experienced quite a lot in the 6 days, not even, like really just truly like 5 nights that we were together in the jungle. And she has a story to share. And as always, as Heather and I love to do, we're going to be making the mind, body, soul connection to all of that. So why don't you start us off, Mary, explaining a little bit about what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited also what you guys do on your podcast, Bridging the Mind, Body, and Soul, because that is just such a beautiful place to integrate it all. So what I do is I am a feminine energy and embodiment coach. I work with women who are high achievers. You're listening to this podcast, so you probably are a very high achiever because I know Devon and Heather are as well. We have big goals, big dreams we want to accomplish. And what happens is we, as women, and also men, but speaking primarily to women, we can get stuck in our masculine energy, which is the going, the doing, the taking action. And I work with women to soften and surrender into their feminine energy so that they can attract a relationship where you are with a partner who it feels like you're a power couple. It feels like you are getting to go to the gym together. It feels you're in this relationship where you are reading books together and you're talking about your goals and things that light you up. So I work with women on an energetic level because when you're in your masculine energy, it's very it actually will repel those types of men. So that is what I do, and I am super, super passionate about it.
I think it's really interesting, and I'm excited to learn more, of course, about your story from the jungle, but also like what that work looks like. I think
Yeah.
I always have lots of questions. So before I derail this conversation, why don't we get into the story that you guys are going to share?
Yeah, so we had quite the experience truly it was literally night two of being in the jungle. Mary and I had known each other for just over 24 hours. And so I will hand the mic over to you, Mary, to share the story from your point of view. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, let's also connect that to the work that you do because were so many powerful lessons and
Yeah.
invitations for surrender, as you just mentioned. And just a little disclaimer here, the story that Mary and I are about to share and relive was a pretty traumatic experience for both Mary and I. And we do in it talk about an accident that happened and some medical support that came after. So, for those listening, if you find yourself activated in any way by this episode, please be mindful and reach out to support if you need. The purpose of sharing the story is simply to spread awareness around how we navigate times of crisis. Last week, Mary, we had a conversation on navigating stressful crisis moments. We were talking about my locked out of the house pot of water on the stovetop, and like that is nothing in comparison to what we are going to be sharing here. So, for those listening, please take care in that way.
Yeah, so as I'm sure your audience knows, Devon was at a retreat in Mexico, and that's where we met. It was night two. I was having a really beautiful, deep conversation with another woman on the retreat, and Devon, she walks over and she says, "Hey, Mary, I'm gonna walk back to my bungalow." And me and Devon's bungalow was pretty close together. And we had been meeting at a certain spot the past 2 days to walk to places together, just so we wouldn't be alone. And that's a big thing for me because I've been really working on, I'm very independent. All right. And you might be too, if you have a strong masculine energy, very independent. And sometimes it's like, no, I got this. But Devon came over that night and said, I'm going to walk back. And I turned to the other woman and I said, I know we're having a really beautiful conversation. Let's continue this in the morning because I don't want to walk back alone. So I was really proud of myself for that in the moment because normally I would be like, no, I'm fine. I got this. But like, thank you anyway. And so Devon and I leave the common room area, and maybe a minute or two into walking, and we're having Devon and I, deep souls over here, we're having beautiful, like heart-wrenching conversation. Even just in that 60 seconds we're leaving, and we're starting to open up about our lives and what's going on, and all of a sudden, boom, I don't know what happened, but I am now in the ground, stuck between two planks. I yelled to Devon because Devon, it's dark out and she can't really see, and I'm walking behind her because it's a narrow path. And I said, Devon, I'm stuck. And she had no idea. So she turns around, she sees me. And this is a question a lot of people keep asking me. In the moment, I actually didn't really feel a lot of pain for how bad it was, which I'll get to in a second. But I knew it was painful, but not excruciating in that moment. And so Devon comes over and I'm trying to maneuver my leg out. And all of a sudden we see how deep this cut is. So there had been a nail in in what was this plank that was missing. There was a nail and I fell in this gap and my leg got caught onto this nail and it got sliced open. So Devon and I, we see this slice and we had this fear in both of our eyes, but immediately we knew it was bad. And so Devin starts to help me and then realizes, okay, let me go get help. Now I'm sitting there alone with my leg stuck, knowing how bad it is. And I've been through actually a near-death experience before, so I have some skill with dealing with trauma. So I know, Mary, this is bad. Stay calm. So I knew I needed to get my leg out ASAP because this wound it makes more sense when you see the picture, but you guys can't see the picture. It's 3 layers deep. I had 3 layers of stitches, and it just got a piece of the tendon. So in my leg. So Devin comes back with a man, and I have my leg out. He takes his shirt off, wraps his shirt around my leg, and from there, we're trying to figure out what to do in that scenario. So I'll pause right there if you guys want to ask some more questions or if you want me to keep going.
I mean, it's terrifying. And I guess you're saying like, and maybe you'll get to this, but you're saying like stay calm to yourself. And I'm just wondering like what that means and how you do that when you're like, one, in pain, but two, like in a near-death experience like that. I mean, that is a terrifying thing to have to like sit with, let alone sit with alone.
Yeah. That's a really good question, Heather, because so staying calm, I know in that moment, there is literally nothing I can do. I can't get up and walk. And so I know that I need to just surrender into my body. And while I did start to have a panic attack because I know I'm in pain, the rush, the adrenaline, I'm feeling my heart rate pick up, I'm feeling dizzy. And so one of the things that my natural instincts kicked in just because, I'm a healer and we study this work and we know things that are good for us. I had my water bottle next to me. So I grab my water bottle and I dump it on my head, all over my face, because I knew that just instinctively that was going to shock my system to reset, which is really, really a powerful way. If you have ever having anxiety or a panic attack, get a cold bowl of water and dump your head in there to shock the body when you're having a panic attack. So that, and in that moment, my number one thing is I just did not want to pass out. At times I would feel really woozy and then I would feel my heart rate pick up because I would get scared. And my number one, all I could do in that moment was, Mary, stay calm. So one of the a few of the men that were over there, Jake, he came over and he starts breathing with me. He says, Mary, look me in the eyes. Well, he didn't even know my name at that time, I'm pretty sure. He says, look me in the eye. I didn't know his name either. Shout out Jake, I love you. He's like, look me in the eyes and breathe. And so I calmed down and he's like, can I see your leg? And I'm like, no, it's really bad. I need to go get help ASAP. I'm gonna bleed out. And so I start panic again. He calms me down. And then I got this intuitive message, Mary, they don't know how serious this is. Let them see it. It'll be okay. So I said, okay, you can look at it now. And they're like, oh, okay. We are going to need to go get some stitches. And I could tell Jake, he was trying to remain calm, which was so beautiful, because when you aren't used to experiencing trauma, it can be very scary. But the worst thing that you can do is start to go into panic, start to go into anxiety. But oftentimes, and for people listening, the body is so in tune with its instinct abilities. You might just naturally be calm. Like you might naturally know, okay, I can't talk right now. I should just be really calm. So yeah, staying calm for me looked like really, if I was getting to a worked up state, okay, calm the body down, because there was nothing I could do in that moment, literally nothing.
It's interesting having this conversation with you after the conversation that we had last week
Yeah.
on navigating stressful moments and like how the mind and body are responding to those stressful, chaotic moments. And I do remember more than anything in that moment was the calm state that you were in. And I'm like, how is she so calm? Like, I know I was calm, but it wasn't, it wasn't necessarily happening to me. Like, it wasn't my leg. And I was like, she is so calm right now. And it was really, truly amazing to witness somebody who was going through such an intense traumatic experience and to be so calm and like level headed in that moment. And the beautiful thing too was that we had so much support for you. Like, I remember
Yeah.
running to that lobby and then running back to you, and running to that lobby and running back to you, like grabbing any of the people that I could so that you would have that support. And when you were at that moment, when you started kind of hyperventilating, that is when, yes, like Jake was there helping you breathe. And also, I had grabbed Nathan, our breath
Yeah.
facilitator, and he was coming and he was doing breath work with Mary as well, so that she really could stay calm and, bring mind body into coherence. And it really was helpful.
Yeah, it was I was so supported because I remember after Jake was really helped keeping me calm with the breath, and I just leaned back and was like holding on to Nathan. I was like, okay, I just need to be held. Like, I knew I just needed to be held and literally physically supported in that moment. And so while all that was happening, I hear everyone trying to come up with a game plan. So in my mind's, okay, they're coming up with a game plan. Like, they got this, Mary. We're gonna be okay. So yeah, I just knew that the only thing that was going to benefit me was to stay calm. So then they come over, they're game planning, and they bring a table out from the common area, and they're asking me, can you slide onto this table? Because there's no way my leg is ripped open and I can't walk. And we're in the middle of the jungle at this resort. And so I slide onto the table, and I don't even know how many, I want to say like 6 or 7 guys. And all I hear is 3, 2, 1. And they lift me in the air on this folding table in the middle of the jungle. It's dark. The path is a little wooden beaten path, and there's barely any light. And immediately I go into panic because my first thought says, what if one of them falls and trips and then they drop you? I was like, I'm going to die. If that happens, I'm going to die. So at that moment, I made peace with if I was going to die. But then I tried to calm myself down. So I just fully had to surrender. So I closed my eyes. I put my hands over my ears because, everybody's chatting and talking and trying to navigate through this beaten path in the jungle to take me to the car. So in that moment, I was the definition of surrender because my body can't move. I allowed myself purposely not to hear anything because I didn't want to bring in, because I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive to energy. I didn't want to bring that into my space because I was trying to just stay calm. That was my number one goal. And I closed my eyes and I started to pray. I started to connect to my higher source, which is God. For some people it might be the universe, angels. I said, God, I am scared. I'm scared. And I heard, Mary, you're going to be okay. I felt this energy of Jesus. I felt the energy of my dad who's passed, and they were there with me in that moment. And it was really beautiful because I needed to be supported from a masculine energy in that moment because I was so in my feminine of surrendered. And so I knew in that moment I'd be okay. And that's the thing when you're going through trauma, you can only take it step by step. I can't think about in that moment, oh my God, well, what if I get to the hospital and this happens? And so it's really important when you're going through trauma to just you can be as present as possible, but one step ahead. No more than one step, no 2 steps. So we get to the car and we're trying to figure out, and this is kind of where I'll pause too to let Devon chime in. We're trying to figure out who's going to come. And Devon immediately gets in the front seat and is like, I'm coming. And I knew my logic in that moment because we're in Mexico, and I said, okay, we need someone to speak Spanish. Jake mentioned he speaks Spanish, and he's also keeping me very calm. And again, I'm like, I need masculine energy right now. And so I asked Jake, I said, can you come with me? And then one of the retreat attendees, who was also the mom of the guy running it, was a surgeon. And I have a lot of family members who are in the medical field. And I always turn to them when I'm in any medical situation. I say, can you explain this in human? I don't know what they're telling me. So I knew in that moment, ask Mama Sheridan to come, because she will, one, if they can't sew me up, then she can hopefully put some gloves on and sew me up. And two, she'll be able to explain what is happening. So from that moment, then we are getting in the car and about to depart to the hospital.
Yeah, for those who haven't understood yet, like, we're in the jungle. We are 40 minutes away from any type of main road. So of course there's no like ambulance coming in. Like, we had to, on this plastic folding table, get Mary onto there, carry her down this pathway to the gravel road, get her into the back seat of a pickup truck. And yeah, it was the whole ordeal. I don't even know how long it was exactly, Mary,
Yeah.
but it honestly felt like at least an hour and a half before you were on your way to the hospital.
Mm. I didn't even think about that, how long that part was actually, but it had to be. And yeah, so we're in the middle of nowhere. And so they put me in the truck. We are now headed to a hospital, and we are on this little dirt road in the jungle. It's dark. There are a ton of bumps. When you're navigating this, it's almost like picture a safari in a sense. You have to navigate to the right. You have to navigate to the left. There's giant potholes. You have to watch out for the jaguars. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe. And so I'm in the car again. Just surrender, Mary. Surrender. So I'm having a conversation, getting to know Mama Sheridan. And then so we get onto the highway, and that's where I start to have a little panic set in. Because actually as soon as we got on the highway, there was a cop car. And I haven't really talked about this. I haven't really talked about this detail, but there was this cop car that was behind us flashing the lights. And I'm like, oh my God, like all the times to get pulled over right now. My mind's like, what if it's a fake cop and it's the Mexican cartel? And the guy who was one of the managers at the retreat, he's driving the car, and he says, no, they just do that in Mexico. But this cop car's behind us for like 5 minutes. And I did not have a good feeling about it. And so I'm trying to remain calm. I'm like, Mary, if the Mexican cartel is going to pull you over right now, so be it. This is what is happening. I can't do anything. So then the cop car drives off, and I calm down a little bit, but then another thought comes in. Mary, what if we run out of gas right now? And it's so funny I had that thought actually, because I told the guy who ran the resort, Jemiah, on the way back that thought, and he's like, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because thank God I remembered to put gas in the tank before we left, because otherwise we wouldn't have gas. And so I had that thought come in. I said, Mary, just remain calm. You have to just breathe. You have to just stay present as possible and say it's going to be okay. And so meanwhile, they're figuring out which hospital to take me to. And the guy at the resort who was running, the manager, he wanted to take me to a Red Cross. And I said, I'm absolutely not going to a Red Cross. So and I mention these details because this is the beautiful balance about being able to surrender, but also being able to remain in control. Because I could have just said, okay, he knows best, take me there. But my body spoke to me in that moment and was like, they're not going to have what you need there. And so I said, I need a hospital. And Jake, who's in the front seat, reassures that one of the guys at the retreat was looking up the best hospitals, and we're headed there. So now we get to the hospital, and Jake mentioned later on, he looked at my face and he was laughing because I look at this hospital, which does not look like a hospital. It looks like It almost looks like a fast food place, like, and so we go in, and now the doctors are there. They look at it, and they seem very confident, even though I don't know what they're saying. And now this was actually a really scary part for me was, um, they asked Mama Sheridan and Jake to leave the emergency room and go wait in the waiting room. And I had this moment of panic because these are two people that are helping keeping me calm, and now I'm going to be alone, and I don't know Spanish. And so Jake looks at me, and I could feel how sad he felt, and he says, "Mary, we have to go wait in the waiting room." And I said, "Okay." And so that's where it's like I had to really tap into my strength, because these were the support that was holding me up, and now they're going. So I'm now on the hospital bed, and the doctors seem confident. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be fine. Again, all I could do is surrender. And like stuff like that doesn't gross me out too. I actually loved anatomy and physiology when I was in high school and college. So I'm like peeking up, watching them, but then I freaked out because I'm like, okay, Mary, this is your leg. So then I lay back, like put my head back down, and I closed my eyes, and I just started to meditate. I started to pray. Again, I just started to say, God, I am scared. And I heard this voice that said, Mary, this is a blessing. Are you willing to trust me? You can't see, and you're not going to be able to see it yet, but are you willing to believe that this is a blessing? And I said, yep. And all of a sudden, immense peace. I'm then joking around with the doctors. It was a man and a woman. They seemed around my age, which I eventually found out they were around my age. And like, oh, you guys would be a cute couple. You guys are both single. And I'm just like having a good time joking with them. Partially probably because some of the drugs, maybe the painkillers. And yeah, I'm like, come visit me in New Jersey anytime. And so I don't know how long it took, but they tell me I'm done, and they wheel me out in the chair. I'm like, I have to pee so badly. So I get up and I realize, oh my gosh, I could stand. Mama, Sheridan, Jake are shocked that I can stand and like hobble. So, and I'm in good spirits at that point because I just accepted what was going on in that moment. I'm not thinking about, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Am I going to go back to New Jersey? What am I going to do? And that's a key piece when you're navigating trauma, is to bring as much acceptance into the moment as you can. And so for me, it was just really acknowledging, okay, I'm having a good conversation. Okay, I am now able to go to the bathroom, and not get to focus forward what's going to happen next.
I think that, well, first of all, you are so brave for all that you went through, all that you're sharing, for staying calm and like in that moment, but then like having to relive and share this information now. I just want to like acknowledge that I am feeling activated. So I can only imagine what it was like for you in those moments, and even now talking back through it. So thank you for that. I think something that you're speaking to is like a very common misconception around acceptance and surrender, in that like you're going to like where you're at, or like to have acceptance you have to be like happy. And I think acceptance is just not fighting reality. It's just acknowledging like, this is where I am. It sucks, right? Like I'd rather be 18,000 places than here, but I am here. Like, and you can choose to fight that reality or be in it. And I think that's what I'm like taking away from what you're sharing, is that this acceptance isn't happiness. It's not even necessarily like, maybe it is peaceful, but it's just simply acknowledging this is my reality and this is where I am.
Yeah, that gave me chills, Heather, because that's exactly what it is. It's not being like sugarcoating, oh my God, let me just be happy in this moment. It's like, wow, this is what's going on. But, you know, I could start to think like, oh my God, am I going to be able to walk again? Oh my God, am I going to be able to do yoga? Oh my God, all the what ifs come in, and you can't think about that because yeah, true acceptance is just meeting yourself with where you're at in that moment and being as present as possible.
Heather and I talked about this last week of how powerful our mind is and how helpful our mind is in moments like these, especially when we are mindful, when we have control of our mind. Because, yeah, you could have gone to a million different places. You could have
Yeah.
gone to like 3 days, 2 weeks, 5 months, 10 years from now and been like, oh my God, what is this moment going to change for me? And you didn't. You stayed extremely present and you chose acceptance. And that is not easy to do in a high stress, traumatic, panic filled moment. It's not easy to do. So we recognize that. And also, I love that we're having this conversation, Mary, so that you can showcase what it was like for you as somebody who is in this healing field
Yeah.
to practice what you preach.
Yeah, I've said this a couple years ago when I had my near-death experience. Being a healer, learning all these tools, knowing all these different techniques will save your life. It saved my life, I think that was like 4 years ago, and it saved my life in that moment because I know how to get to a calm state. I know how to be present. And even it was a nice reminder for me because I think, if you're listening to this, maybe you're somewhat new to meditation or maybe you've been meditating for a long time. If you're like meditating for a long time, like maybe me and Devon and Heather, I think sometimes we underestimate how powerful those practices are and how much we do need them. But over time, it just becomes who you are. You just become that person who can tap into that calm state of being. So now we leave the hospital and I think it's probably around like 3:30 in the morning. We get back to the bungalow at like 4:30 and again, I started to feel a little panic and fear because they walked me to my bungalow and the bungalow is dark in the jungle. You're by yourself. It's like a little cube. And so Mama Sheridan and Jake, they set me up with a bunch of stuff with whatever I need. And then they say, we'll check on you in the morning. Now, I got really scared because I'm like, I'm alone. And now I have the time to process what just happened. I'm not going to sleep in that moment. Okay, great. I'll get some great sleep. Talk to you in the morning. Love you. I'm now in my bed, dark. Holy shit. And there's no cell service, so I can't distract myself. I can't I couldn't have my book. I couldn't even read my book because it was too dark. So at first I tried to distract myself. I pull up my phone and there's no cell service, but I can access my photos. So I'm looking at pictures of my dog. And that actually really helped calm me down because I think this is a big piece of when you're navigating trauma. And also a lot of people get scared to dive into some of their trauma is they think that you're going to stay stuck in that really scary state that really, especially when you're processing it. And I'm processing it alone in that moment, which is why you have to have someone to process it with if you're not familiar with tools. But even if you are, like I've been processing it so much with different healers and coaches and, especially Devon, which we'll get into with her and her Reiki. So I'm looking at pictures of my dog to just bring in some ease because I was starting to get really deep in the deep waters. And that is a very scary place to be, especially when you're by yourself. So I feel calm, I feel at peace. And then I put my phone down and I just start to pray and thank God that, okay, I'm here, I'm alive. I thank God that I am back in this bed. And I pray and say, okay, I don't know what to expect tomorrow morning. I don't know what's to come, but I am willing to just completely surrender to what is going to happen and really just surrender in that moment. So that brought peace. So I think maybe I got about 30 minutes of sleep and Jake and Mama Sheridan told me they were going to send someone to check on me in the morning around like 8:30. So I've been up for the whole night and I am like, okay, let me get ready. Let me get started the day. I, I didn't think anything. I didn't really think anything in that moment. Like, okay, like what's gonna happen? I was just like, what do I want to do? I'm like, all right, I want to get ready. I somehow take a shower, and I'm hobbling because I can't really walk, and I didn't get crutches till later that day. So I somehow shower, do my makeup, get dressed, and then I hear a knock on the door, and in comes Devon, and I'll let you take it over.
Yeah, that morning. So I didn't get to mention this earlier, but I wasn't able to go to the hospital with Mary because there wasn't enough room in the truck, and it was really important for Jake and Mama Sheridan to be there. And so I had to let go and let them take care of it. Let Mary go with them to the hospital, knowing, trusting that she was being well taken care of. So it was first thing in the morning. I was getting ready for my presentation, and then a few hours in, I'm like, I want to go check on Mary. Brought her bowl of food, saw that there was one of the resort employees sitting outside. I'm like, what is this? She's got bodyguards outside. Like, this is some next level service. And show up to her bungalow with breakfast. And we're just like, we open the door, and I'm like, Mary, what the fuck? And she's like, what the fuck? And we're just like, what happened? And it was just such a funny, wild moment in that retreat.
Also, not to mention, like, you guys have only known each other for like 24, 48 hours. And I mean, I guess this is what they say when they talk about like trauma bonding, because like you guys are like sharing this experience that's literally wild.
Yeah, it was definitely trauma bonding at its finest. And so, yeah, Devon comes in and we're just chatting, and that moment was just so grounding because we acknowledged it. We're not just like, oh my God, like, we're just like, dude, what the hell? What the fuck happened? What's going on? And that was just very grounding for me. So then we're talking about her day because Devon has her speech that she's, getting ready to prepare and give. And I asked myself in that moment, all right, what are we going to do, Mary? I'm like, I'm staying here. It wasn't really a question to leave and go home until actually, like, throughout the week, people would say, I can't believe you're still here. Or even that day, I can't believe you're still here. And in my head, I am like, why would I go home when I live alone? I have my dog, but I live alone. And, here I'm making do. I'm gonna be limping around, hobbling around back home. So I might as well make do with where I'm at in this moment. So I walk into the room where they're doing the conferences and speeches, and people come over to me and start helping me. And just to kind of like, summarize it, the whole week and that whole experience, I was allowing people to help and care for me. And I've worked a lot on being able to ask for help because a lot of the women I work with, and maybe if you're listening to this, it's a struggle to ask for help and ask for what you need. And so I've worked really hard on asking for help, but it was so beautiful because in those moments I didn't even have to ask for help. People were just helping me, and I'm allowing myself to receive so gracefully because, people are like, here, Mary, I got you this plate of food, and bringing it over. And so it was there have been so many lessons, and I'm still unpacking them. But one of the lessons that actually I realized on day 2 in the morning, Devon, you were guiding a meditation and with Reiki, and I got this intuitive message of, Mary, you can't get to the next level in your business, in your relationships, with yourself. You're feeling stuck. And this is actually the irony in this. And I shared that before it all happened. One of my intentions was on going to that retreat was to surrender into the unknown, because I've been feeling stuck in my life, stuck in my business, stuck in my relationships. And you know what? The universe said, we're going to show you how stuck you are and how deep these wounds are, 3 layers deep. And we're going to, okay, you're going to surrender into the unknown. All right. And so I realized from that day, that morning, that I was running from love. I was running the opposite direction of success. I was scared to welcome that in. So the universe said, Mary, this is what you want. we're going to show you how amazing it is. You don't have to be afraid, because a big piece of when we are afraid of love and success is control. We need to know how it's going to happen, and we want it to happen on our terms. And so I was able to welcome in that love and welcome in being able to be cared for, which was one of the many, many, many lessons.
Yeah, it really puts so much deeper meaning to the work that you do, Mary. Like when we
Yeah.
think about this, again, extends off the conversation that we had last week. When you're in these crisis moments, first thing that is necessary is like that mind, using your mind to control the moment, right? And then making sure that you're caring for your body in that moment as well, like allowing yourself to be cared for, allowing yourself to process the trauma from your body. And then after that, then you can come in with that spiritual awareness of like, wow, look at all of these lessons that
Yes.
look at all the lessons that I'm learning. I mean, speak about like feminine embodiment, surrender. Like you were so cared for and so loved. Like I just
Yeah.
beautiful to witness throughout that retreat. Everybody, the outpouring of love. I mean, you had like I remember sitting in the speaker room and everybody had taken a bathroom break and then in comes Mary, like this man Weston is carrying
Oh,
Mary into the presentation room and I'm like, should should I like maybe trip and fall so that I have a Weston like carrying me in his arms. Damn, that is a level of like feminine just being taken care of, receiving. So you know, from this really traumatizing, messy scenario, after you're able to get past or move through all of that, like as Heather called it last week, like taking the things off of the shelf, like unshelving them,
Mm.
processing them, then we're able to be like, oh my gosh, there was actually so much beauty and so much so much love and from the lessons learned in that moment.
I'm laughing while you're talking, Mary, not at all about the situation, because of course it's like so serious, but Devon and I have joked before about like the universe's like sense of humor with things.
Yes.
And like when you're like, okay, what do I want? I want to learn. My intention is to surrender. They're like, oh, watch this. Like, here we go. So of course I'm like very happy that you're okay and that all worked out well, but the irony isn't lost at all.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so funny. Yeah, like, all right, this is what you wanted. And to kind of go back to like what Devon was saying, and just to share some, tips for people who are going through trauma, like it's a process. Even in that jungle, I am all about life is a roller coaster, or I'm a surfer. Life is about riding the waves. But in that week was a roller coaster, because while I was so loved and so supported, there still is that fear of, okay, when I get back, what's going to happen? Or, what's going to happen to my leg? And again, you just have to come back to the present moment, but you also like you'll have to allow yourself to experience. So a really scary moment for me was one of the days when I finally was like, okay, I want to look at the stitches. So we had a break and I'm in the room and I start to unravel the bandage that was around my leg, and I see this giant scar. My leg is swollen and I don't have full mobility in my leg. I can barely walk. And all the emotions came up. I started to go into panic because my mind was saying, Mary, this is your leg. So the mind was bringing the reality of the situation in, which is very valid and very important, because I believe a lot of spiritual people can sometimes get caught up in the woo and, oh, it's all good vibes, it'll be okay. But it's like, this is the reality at the end of the day. But it's what you are going to make of that reality. So in that moment, I asked Devon, hey, I'm not doing okay. Can you, when you get a moment, come do some Reiki on me? And so she did Reiki. And one of the things that I remember she was saying, and, I didn't tell her the thoughts that were going on in my head. One of the things that she was saying as she was giving me Reiki was, like, allow your body to calm down. Your body just, it's something that's never happened before, but you're okay. She was just really speaking to my body, and it was exactly what I needed in that moment, because that was what was my mind was saying, this is your leg. This is your new reality. And it's one of the things that I always say, especially when going through trauma. It really is, life is so precious. In a moment, your life can change, but it's how you respond to that moment that can truly change your life. So in that moment, I knew, okay, that this had been something that changed, but again, remain calm and allow yourself to feel it, because it's very important to feel it. So yeah, throughout this process, I've been navigating the highs and the lows.
I'm the first person to, as a therapist in most conversations, to like tell you that to be cautious of what your mind is saying and
Yeah.
not buy into or believe everything that your mind is saying. But when it does come to like trauma response and like crisis situations, I actually do think it can be helpful for us to rely a little bit more on our mind,
Mm,
because your nervous system, I always say your nervous system doesn't have eyes. So like when you're looking down
mm,
at your leg and like panicking because you're like, oh my God, this is my leg and it looks bad, like it doesn't look good, your mind can then actually like coach your nervous system through like, it's okay, like it's not like we're not in immediate danger right now. Like that's where our mind, I think, does become
mm,
helpful. And yeah, like I do think, unfortunately, the hard part about being human is that like not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows or good
yep,
vibes only. And
yep.
you had an accident and your leg suffered from it, and that is your new reality. And like I think it's hard for us to face that sometimes, and also still important too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's very important, because it's also part of the healing process as well.
And as we begin to wrap up, Mary, this has been such an insightful conversation on in so many ways, like how you navigated those that really high intensity traumatic stress experience and how you continue to navigate it. Because as you said, like it's not like it happened, you got stitched up, you were all good. You know, there was so much that had happened and continues to unfold for you beyond the retreat, right? It's now been 2 months, and there's still, I know there's still
Yeah.
that you're unpacking, and that's the reality of trauma. So thank you for adding in all of your helpful tidbits there. And is there anything else that you would like to add on to the nuggets of wisdom that you shared with us today?
Hmm. I guess you add on that whatever you might have been drawn to this because you're going through some challenging times, and trauma isn't measurable. I realized a lot actually this past year. I took care of my dad on hospice a little over a year ago, and I started to actually allow myself to recognize that that was a very traumatic experience for me, because I was in it in the moment. I just went into, okay, giver, be the caregiver, the healer. And after it happened, my dad passed and I'm dealing with grief. But then I started to allow myself to recognize, Mary, that actually was a very traumatic experience. So I think sometimes when we go through challenging things in life, it will take a little bit to recognize, wow, that actually was traumatic. And so I feel called to share of where can you lean into just being honest with yourself, of being honest of what is happening and what's going on in your life, because that's what's going to allow you to feel so much better at the end of the day. Because as I started to admit that that was a very traumatic experience for me, it was very, 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 very challenging caring for my dad on hospice. It was very scary and lots of crazy things. And so give yourself time, give yourself space, and be patient throughout the process.
You may or may not know this, but there's no like instance or situation that can be defined as traumatic. Like trauma isn't defined by like the details of the situation that happened, rather like the impact that that situation had. So multiple people can go through the same exact situation and it can be traumatic for one person and not the other, because it's about the impact that it has on you. So I think what you're saying is acknowledging like this is hard and this is scary and this is traumatic, and even that does help us like crack that door open to beginning to accept and surrender to the fact that like this is a hard reality that I'm navigating.
Yes, exactly. Because that's why my brand is True Vibe. And you, Heather, you mentioned it, literally what I say about my brand all the time. Life isn't all good vibes. You look everywhere, oh, good vibes, which is amazing. But my brand True Vibe is about connecting to who you truly are on a vibrational level, because when the challenges, the lows, when they come up, you will be so connected to who you are at the core. I know who I am at the core is I am a strong individual. And so when those challenges occur, you will know who you are at the core and you'll be able to navigate them, and you'll be able to give yourself grace as you navigate those challenges. And then when the coin flips and you get to welcome in the highs and the good vibes, you will appreciate them so much more. You will fully feel and open those good vibes up with so much more open arms. So it really is a journey, and I really do believe everything is serving you for your highest good, but it is important to acknowledge where you are at and your reality.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, Mary. I've loved sharing this conversation with you. I mean, every time that we unpack like what happened, I feel like we unlock new levels of understanding and also
Yeah.
them through these conversations as well. So just speaks to the power of having the safe spaces, having the right support. I mean, hearing Heather's therapist input on this as well, and also just like human support too, really helpful. For those listening, where can our audience find you? Do you have any current offerings that you'd love to share?
Yeah. So come say hi with me on Instagram at MaryMC4. Let me know what this brought up for you, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to have a conversation. And my podcast, Living Your True Vibe. Devon's been on the podcast. Heather, I'll have to have you on. It's very similar jam as this. So definitely come check out my podcast. And if you are interested in working with me, I'm very selective. And plus we talked to him a little bit. We talked a lot about trauma and not so much the actual work that I do, but it's a testament to the work that I do and the healing work. So if you're single and you want to start to dive into your wounds, pun intended, if you want to start to dive in and do some of this work, just send me a message that you're interested in working together.
We'll also include like all the links to everything in our show notes. So anybody that's listening and that does want to connect with Mary, all of that information is below in our show notes. So thank you again, Mary, for unpacking all of that and sharing all of the wisdom that you've taken. Devon, thank you for bringing in another incredible jungle friend. I'm not surprised, but happy to have these conversations and to get to meet another Jersey girl from the jungle.
Thank you guys so much, seriously, for having me on your beautiful show. And everyone who is listening, I'm just sending you so much love. And thank you again for inviting me on. It means a lot.
And with that, we will see you all again next week for another episode. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Mary. Bye, everybody.
Bye. We are so glad that you took the time to share this space with us. We'll be releasing new episodes of Mind Meets Body and Soul every Tuesday, so be sure to give us a follow and share this podcast with those you love.
To connect with us and join our communities, head to the show notes where you'll find our contact information and individual websites. Until next week, stay grounded, keep growing, and trust that everything you seek is unfolding for you.